out of the applications. It's getting much more complex. You also want them to be very reliable. They want to be running at the right speed, increasing the number of users. You want all this better stuff for a cheaper price. So customers are wanting more for less money, basically. We've also got this greater relationship with third parties. You know, the testing as a service is increasing as an approach to organisations. So we need to make sure that it's working well. And in many cases, there's also industry standards we have to meet as well. Carol was talking about some of the standards available, but if you're in mobile phone technology, finance, avionics, railroad, defence, you know, there are standards related to that industry that you have to meet. And I've done work for Rolls-Royce, you know, who make the engines. They have to meet standards. I've done work for insurance services. They have standards they have to meet as well. So what we're seeing, the systems and applications are playing an increasing part in our everyday life. Not only social and business, but you've got your Facebook, you've got your LinkedIn, you've got your Twitter, you've got all these systems which we're using now. And LinkedIn, do you use a lot of LinkedIn here in Malaysia?
Yes.
Yeah?
Yeah.
It's becoming a very, very popular in the UK. You know, people are finding jobs now on LinkedIn. You know, gone is the old days of submitting your CV to a company. You just apply directly on LinkedIn now. But these systems are becoming so popular that if they fail, if Facebook doesn't work now, if LinkedIn doesn't work, or Twitter, you get people sort of pulling their hair out because they're so reliant on it. I was seeing something that, you know, in texting, did you know that there's a texting walk? Yeah? There's a special walk when you're texting, and you have to do this. You're taking bigger steps, so to stop you walking into things. And you see this as people walking along texting, because they head down, they're taking bigger steps. They call it a texting walk. There's a great emphasis on focus on quality now. Carol mentioned it earlier on, actually, about, you know, let's look at quality. And that's one of the things that TMMi looks at, it's quality. Now, quality is a very interesting word, because what does quality mean? Quality is a little bit like art, it's a little bit like beauty. Different people have a different view of what is quality. If I said to you, the mobile phone, the smartphone that you've got, what makes that a quality product? How would you define that's a quality product? And my guess is different people have a different view as to what makes it quality. What makes a Rolls-Royce quality compared to a Mini? Different things. We need to have established processes that work. What's the point in having a process that doesn't work? Yeah? So we have a process that works, and we may have to refine these as time goes by. The customers and users are becoming much more demanding. You, as users of any systems, you're expecting things to work first time and every time. I just did some updates to applications on my iPhone. You know, whilst you were coming in, I was linked into the internet and it did some updates. My expectation is, as I do those updates and I press open, that application will work straight off. Why not? That's my expectation as a user, and I'm sure it's your expectation. But you think about the testing that has to go through to make sure that it's going to work on every variant of the iPhone that there is out there now. Software failures are now much more visible, and they're going to have a big impact, as I mentioned in the earlier slides. You know, the things that we're seeing in the public there now are much more visible. The fast change in the industry. If I said to you, where were you, or where was our industry 5 years ago? And you look at what we were doing 5 years ago compared to where we are now. And then where are we going to go in the next 5 years or the 10 years? Now, do any of you get involved in interviewing staff? at all? No? One of the things I like to do is, if someone's coming to a job or something like that, I hate the question where they say, so where do you want to be in 5 years' time? What do you want to do in 5 years' time? I don't know. You know, it's a difficult thing to say. But what I like to say is, what do you think will happen to your industry in 5 years' time? What's going to happen to your industry in the future? Where's it going to go? Now, I would expect you to have a view. Don't have to be the same view as me, but it shows that you're thinking about your industry. It's our industry. What's going to happen? Things are changing. So if you look back at the last 5 years, what's going to happen in the next 5 years? Sometimes when I'm travelling, I get the New Scientist magazine. I don't know if any of you ever read it, but there's some interesting articles on IT in there. And I was on an aeroplane once, and I was reading it, and it was talking about the future of aviation. And it was saying that they've got to make aircraft much more economical. Okay, so we can use composite materials, make them lighter, we can improve engine efficiency, good thing to do. But the other thing they're talking about as well is removing wire from inside an aeroplane. So at the moment it's all fly-by-wire, controlled by computers. Wire is heavy. And the new Airbus A380, you know, the big one, the wire in there will stretch from London to Scotland. I don't know how many kilometres that is, but it's a long way. And that's heavy. So what they want to do is to take the wire out and use Bluetooth or wireless connectivity to fly the aeroplane. So the pilot's going to be flying the aeroplane, controlling the aeroplane through Bluetooth. Okay, and I'm sat there in this aeroplane thinking, I don't know how I feel about that. Because you think how easy it is to damage your signal. You know, you just have to have some sort of jamming system there which prevents that wireless talking from the pilot through to the control services. And we have a problem. How do we get over that? So, putting my testing hat on, I was thinking, how do I test for that? I don't know. But we're seeing this Internet of Things at the moment, aren't we? We're seeing wireless technology out there. You know, and it's bringing a whole breed of new problems, because they're saying that, you know, you can actually hack into your computer systems at home through your fridge or your iron or whatever else is connected to the internet, where it's got low levels of security on it. So through that system, it'll come back through into your laptops. So things like this, I don't know the answers, but this is the way potentially our industry is going to go. Another one as well is talking about children, and in the UK they're teaching children now as young as 6 how to code, and they're using, have you heard of Lego bricks? They're like little toys of bricks that you can build up like houses and things. So what they're saying is in each brick you have a bit of code, and you put the bricks together to create an application. So it's teaching them how to code up like that. And what they're saying is that in another 15 years' time, 10 years' time, when these children are of an age where they're actually starting to code properly, we're going to start to see applications that we haven't even thought of yet. There's going to be a wide diversity in applications, and we're going to have to embrace that. This is coming along. So I personally find this fascinating to think, where are we going? And as organisations, we have to be prepared to meet that. We have to be prepared to make sure our processes are going to work and can be flexible to meet these new approaches. So that's a long thing about that, but it is an important area, I think. There needs to be ever more efficient. You know, we need to save time and money and yet improving quality, and give the focus to quality improvements to staff to help them see the benefits. Now this is something I'm seeing an awful lot of, making sure that people we're going to talk to understand what quality means and how they can be part of that journey as well. No longer is it someone else's problem, it's for all of us to think about, how can we improve the quality? And the nice thing about this is that we can all do this. Anytime you do anything at all, whether it be write a document, do some testing or whatever, you just have to say to yourself, how can I do that better? And it doesn't necessarily need your manager to ask you to think about that. It's something that we can all think about ourselves. I did some work for a company in Denmark, and they were at the time working through TMMi levels. And one thing was really apparent to me when you're talking to staff was that mindset of thinking how to improve, how to get better. And this is what we need to think about, you know, how can we improve the quality of whatever we do? Okay, so moving on from that, we want to get better. So what are the issues now? What are these defects costing us today? Now, this got mentioned, actually Carol mentioned this guy earlier on today. I don't know if you picked up on this, Barry Bain. And he talks about the cost of defects. Now this is quite an old graph, but it's still quite relevant. If someone says to you, your testing is expensive, do you ever get that? Say you're too expensive? Yeah? The answer is, what's the alternative? I knew a test manager once who turned to the project manager and said, listen, I'll save you loads of money, loads and loads of it. I won't do any testing at all. How about that? You just sign this piece of paper saying you don't want any testing. And the project manager went, well, no, that's not quite what I meant. So it's okay, let's talk about this. Yes, it can be expensive. And if someone says to you, anything is ever expensive, you say, what's the alternative? So what's the cost of not testing? What's the cost of any defects or failures getting through to live? So we know that the cost of fixing defects increases the later the defect is found. A low quality software is not good. It's not good for the business because users take more time to understand it. They make more mistakes, not seen as a worthwhile application. And you've probably seen this graph where if you find a defect down here in requirements, it'll cost you to a factor of 1 unit of effort. When you get out to live, it can cost anything from 1,000 to 4,000 times more than finding it here. The cost increases. That's what he's getting at, and this is why it's a really interesting thing to look about. What is the cost of testing in an organisation? So I've got a couple of examples for you now. This came from a good friend of mine, a lady called Christina Vilar from Sweden, working for this company Folksam. And she actually produced this graph which says where Barry Bain's graph is and where she is, looking at the cost of the defects. So you can see that her trend was very, very similar to the one that Barry Bain came up with. Now, Barry Bain's graph actually came from a study of over 65 projects. So it's not just him thinking of numbers, it's based on actual evidence and hard facts. She's also done this. Now, if you want to take this as like a little template yourselves afterwards and you get the slides and working out what it costs for you, it might be worth doing. And what we look at is breaking it down into requirements, specification, initial tests, system acceptance tests and live running. You can have whatever, sections you want in there. In here she put in how many hours it would take to fix a defect at the different stages. Okay? And in here, this is the Swedish krona. Okay, that's her values. So 1 hour costs 665 krona, 2.5 hours is 2.5 times that, and so on. If they found 100 defects during testing, this is how much they saved. Okay? But it could have cost them a greater sum of money if they didn't find the testing in those sections. So it's trying to look and saying, what it would cost if we found the problem in initial test or in analysis, or during acceptance testing, you can see the cost increases, and this is the costs in live. There's a client that we just at $30. So there's a price difference when we were calculating out the cost. If it was in production, 100 Apex would have cost, and that's the established performance indicators. If we just take that first one up here, break it down further, we have define the goals, define the policy, distribution policy to stakeholders. And the first one again, we break it down into sub-practices here. And this is the level that we start talking to people. So we say, do you study the business needs and objectives? How do you provide feedback to clarify those business needs? Defining the goals, traceable to business needs and objectives. And what happens is, the information down here feeds into here, goes all the way up to the top to define whether you're level 2 or not. That's why that is something like 217 pages long. Okay, there's a lot involved in there. Now, I would love to talk to you more about this, but it would take far too long. So I'll have to stop here now. If you want to know more about TMI and about what I've just been talking about, please email me. I'll get some business cards out. Take a business card. I'm around today and tomorrow. Tomorrow I'm talking about basically successful failures. But thank you for coming, and it's been great to see you, and enjoy the rest of the day.
I have a couple of questions.
Yeah, so if I just let everyone go, and then I'll answer your questions.
So how many companies so far certified in Malaysia are there out of the TMMi?